just got three things to say to you. Best act tonight, best act in the live shows, best new act in America.
By far, the best thing I have seen on this show.
You all are a world-class act.
That is $1 million act right there.
It's groundbreaking what you do. It's incredible. It's breathtaking. This act is about technology, creativity, and someone with a vision.
It was fascinating. It was original. It was wonderful.
Now, that was superb.
You create everything from zero, and it's just brilliant.
Now they've landed in New York with an off-Broadway show called Artists of Light.
Miral came up with a germ of an idea, and look at what she's done with it.
Hi. Thank you. So I'm going to tell you guys about the unlikely story of how iLuminate came to be and my experience with art and technology. So when I was born in Cairo, Egypt, and my parents then decided to come to America because they wanted to give my sister and I the best opportunities that they could. So when I was 2, we moved to Texas. And something I inherited was, right, Texas, at the time, not so woo, but something I inherited from my parents was my dad was actually a professional dancer in Egypt. He was in one of the biggest dance companies in Cairo in folkloric dance. And my mother was actually an accountant. So it's not surprising that I found a love for dance and a love for mathematics, which is what I was really into when I was younger. And so growing up, I loved dance. It was from my heart. It was an expressive way of saying anything through my body, through movement, basically. And computers were really something to challenge me to kind of come up with games and figure out ways to solve problems. But I think that the dancing was really what I gravitated towards. So I really wanted to move to New York City and dance either on Broadway or be in a dance company, a contemporary company, because I actually came from a ballet background. But my parents really wanted me to go to school first, because having come to America from Egypt, they wanted me to have the best opportunities I could. So we made a deal. If I could get into Columbia University, I could move to New York City. So I studied and I studied, and I got early acceptance, which was so exciting. So step 1 was done. And the second part of the deal was they weren't going to give me the same, they were going to keep me and my sister the same as far as what would they pay for our college education. So it was up to me to make the difference. So I worked a couple of jobs and I got student loans. So I get to New York, I study at Columbia University, and I get a degree in computer science. And then I also studied dance at Barnard College, and I also danced throughout the New York City. And it worked out really well. So then I think, okay, now I have my education, I'm in the middle of New York, I made great connections. But before I can really start pursuing my dreams of dancing professionally, I need to kind of get rid of these college loans. So I get a job at Bloomberg for a year, for what I was considering to be a year, where I was going to pay off all my loans. I kept living in the dorms, I kept eating ramen, I saved all my money. I had to pay off the loans, and in that year, I successfully paid off all my college loans. So everything was check, 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 check. So I figure, okay, it was a week before I was gonna give my resignation. Everything was in place, had an apprenticeship with a dance company, I was ready. And I thought, okay, I should probably go see the doctors and get all that stuff taken care of while I had good health care. And I go to the doctor, and they find a tumor in my right hip, retroperitoneal sarcoma. And that changed my whole life's plan. After a year of surgeries, radiation, post-radiation treatments, and the such, I could no longer walk, let alone dance. And I had to go to physical therapy for a couple of years to get to the point where I could walk again and slowly get my hip back to where I could actually carry on normal activities. So obviously, that dream of being a professional dancer didn't quite work out. But what did happen was I rediscovered my love for software. It was no longer a means to an end. It was really fascinating, just writing software. And people who don't know much about being a software engineer, they don't realize that it's art. There's 100 ways to solve a problem. And when you read someone's code, it's like reading someone's poem or something. There's an artistry to software. And I really honed in on that skill. I met some incredible engineers, and I stayed at Bloomberg for 5 more years. And once I got out of remission, I decided, OK, it's time to go back to my love for theater and live dance. And so I continued choreographing and writing iPhone apps. And so I was at an Apple developer conference, and they were talking about how Wi-Fi is getting more popular and smaller. And this was a few years ago. So I thought, well, what if you could bring technology or to dance? What if you could actually communicate wirelessly with dancers on stage and bring the audience into the show more? Because one of the experiences I had at Bloomberg was hanging out with engineers, they were a bit afraid of theater or afraid of dance. And I would say, oh, you have to come with me. There's this really great new show opening. I don't know. I don't go to theater. And then they'd come with me, and then they'd really think, oh, wow, that was a really cool show. I want to see more shows. So one of the reasons I started iLuminate was I wanted to bring theater to more people. And one way I knew how to do it was to bring technology into it, because then you kind of open the doors to a wider audience. So that's part of how iLuminate came to be. And what I love about the company is it really is a seamless integration of art and technology. You have in the same room computer scientists who are working with choreographers and dancers, and the amount of co-respect they have for each other is incredible. And what I think works about iLuminate and technology is that one can't exist without the other. The dancers need the light suits for the type of choreography they're doing, and then the light suits, they need the dancers. That technology, without the right choreographers and the right creative directors, doesn't really work. It's just a bunch of flashing lights. And so what I think, as people start to talk about technology, and there's a big movement to bring technology into art, it has to be seamless, because I've seen it happen where it's just an add-on. It's a little glittery effect, and it sometimes can cheapen something that's so beautiful. And a lot of times I really strive to make sure that when we're doing shows, we tell a story through the technology. And if you take the technology away, it doesn't work. If you take the performance away, it doesn't work. So that's a bit of how iLuminate came to be. It's a very unlikely story, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.